Welcome, everyone, to Let's Talk Gardens. We are so excited that you are joining us for today's presentation, The Flight Garden at the National Air and Space Museum with horticulturist Alex Dencker. Before we officially begin, I have a few reminders. Yes, please use that chat box for questions during today's presentation. We will have time for Alex to answer some of your questions today. As a reminder, this program is being recorded and will be made available online at a later date. We also have auto captioning available that you can turn on using the Zoom toolbar. But without further ado, again, my name is Katie. Thank you for joining us. I am the education specialist at Smithsonian Gardens, and it is my pleasure to introduce Alex Dencker, horticulturist at the National Air and Space Museum, who is going to tell us about the new flight garden. Alex, take it away.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and welcome to everybody. This is a great opportunity for Smithsonian Gardens and for me personally to show everybody what I've been up to and show what Smithsonian has been doing the last 10 years, basically. That's how long this project has taken. I'll be talking to you about the flight garden at the National Air and Space Museum on the National Mall, Smithsonian's newest garden. As Katie said, I'm the horticulturist there. And this garden space around the building that we just are pretty much complete now. It's all new, all planted. This area is where we explore the beauty of and the wonder of plants through the lens of plants and gardens. This garden is also a great way of connecting Smithsonian Gardens and its living collections to the collections inside the museum. The staff with Smithsonian Gardens wants the visitor experience to begin on the sidewalk or on the outside terrace, even before you get to inside the building. Oh, Katie? Huh. Katie, I cannot advance my slides.
Let's see, try clicking the arrow key.
I can't get down there. Oh, nothing.
My keyboard. All right, one moment. We are going to troubleshoot
so while
this
Katie is running down
technical
the office,
difficulty.
Here we have the, this is the West Plaza. In the background there, you can see the Hirshhorn Museum and that big crane there. They're renovating the Hirshhorn Museum right now. And it doesn't let me go in there. So that's the Hirshhorn Museum where they're renovating it. Oh, there you go. Katie's a genius. Thank you. I don't know what that was, but okay. So let's see. So Smithsonian Gardens is basically the entire mall area. You'll see in that little map. Okay. And there's labeled Air and Space Museum, number 12. But this garden that we've just finished surrounds one of the busiest museums in the world, 7 to 8 million visitors per year. It is a vital part of the Smithsonian experience where we engage plants, people, and try to expand our appreciation of stewardship and knowledge. And, you know, I grew up in the DC area. Air and Space was my favorite museum when I was a kid and been here zillions and zillions of times. And I love the place when I was a kid and even before I got into horticulture. But, you know, all things natural and mechanical have a shelf life or have a time span. It doesn't matter if it's biological or mechanical or natural, man-made. All good things must come to an end. And it was time to redo the old building. So everything from waterproofing to the air handling system all need to be renovated and updated. So the modernist building was designed by architect Gio Abada and from the architectural firm H.O.N.K. and opened to the public in 1976, just in time for the nation's bicentennial, almost 50 years ago. And you can imagine 1976, we were 10 years past the Apollo landing on Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong on the moon. So the nation still had that very, very fresh in its memory. You can see here what they did in the 1950s. They had them in the parking lot at our A&I building. And the challenge, of course, was how to take this. They had to build a structure big enough to house all these airplanes, full-size spacecraft, and yet still remain in the confines of the other buildings on the National Mall. And I think they did a great job. So one of the cool things about me is I'm in the garden every day around the building, and sometimes I just look up and I see them dragging in a new plane after all of our renovations we've been doing. So planes are coming back now, artifacts are coming back. They've done a wonderful, wonderful job inside, making everything look so brand new. All the displays are fantastic. The planes are gorgeous, and they're all waiting for you here when you guys come to see them downtown in DC. So that was just two pictures I took. I was out in the landscape, and here they're dragging these two planes in. This one World War I German biplane, and then the XP-59. So it's pretty cool stuff. So as Katie said, I'm the horticulturist today at Air and Space, and I was also the horticulturist and on the old building before it got renovated. And as I said before, all good things must come to an end. And it was a 1980s plant design. So, a lot of trees, a lot of big trees, which are beautiful. But, then they had a shrub layer, and the shrub layer was things like a cherry laurel, skip laurel, Carlesii viburnum, leatherleaf viburnum, rose of Sharon, things of that nature. Then a lot of liriope, a lot of English ivy, and then daylilies and whatever else just kind of sprinkled around for color. And that was kind of the color palette. When I came downtown to work for Smithsonian in 2012, I kind of started changing all that. Liriope went, English ivy went out the door. I just really started taking all that stuff out and then planted the stuff that I like and stuff that I wanted to do, which was great. Smithsonian Gardens allows me to do all that, and it was great. So it was a lot of fun. One thing I didn't want those plants to go to the dumpster, go to the compost pile when the construction started. So the staff and our volunteers worked very, very hard. Those two images on the right was our vehicles loaded up pretty much for that summer of 2018 and 2019. We were digging every day in the middle of summer, and I was determined to make sure that a lot of these plants got good homes. And we dug them up. We brought them to picture on the upper left is American history today. So a lot of the plants went to American history. Some went to American Indian. Some went to natural history. So a lot of stuff got good homes, or as much as I could possibly dig and get out of here. It worked out really, really well. So, and it was a lot of fun too. So I think I dug well over 500 clumps of perennials, and I would say at least maybe 24 shrubs, at least 24 shrubs. So that was, and we did it all in the midsummer. And I tell you, a lot of stuff you can see from that upper picture on the upper left, almost everything did quite well, and it's thriving today. So the big thing for us was, as a design team working for Smithsonian Gardens, we have a landscape architect on staff. We were, always trying to find plants that work, plants that thrive, plants that live long and prosper, plants that can do well in a difficult urban setting around this building, which obviously is very, very hot in the summertime. It's very challenging with so many people and so forth. We have events downtown. It has to be able to take, quite a bit of abuse. So from the very beginning, we always wanted to use best practices when planning, and then later on installing the landscape. And we wanted to make sure that this garden that we installed was worthy of the building and the artifacts inside. When you sit down as a bunch of horticulture people about what we want going forward, of course, there's some guys maybe on the other side, the engineers and the architects, you might want that, but you're going to get this, that kind of thing. We had to there's a lot of going back and forth. So, but one thing we said is like, look, we want as many natives as possible. We would like to try to, at least 70% natives, and all the trees we put in are going to be native. Okay, with the idea that things are going to be resilient. And if they're not going to be native, well then we're going to make sure that they do well in DC area. I'm not really into, babying stuff. If something has to be sprayed or coddled in that way or taken, then I'd really rather not have it here. I don't want to mess with plants like that. I want to take care of them, fine gardening. But if something needs to be coaxed along with lots of applications of whatever, then I'd rather not have that on the palette. By the way, real quick, one thing about the native plant thing. For me, for my definition and what we did here was we're going to define native as everything east of the Mississippi, okay, in the United States. That way we pick up a lot of these marvelous plants from the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Missouri, all the way down, and then also even stuff into Georgia and South Carolina, stuff that could, take tough conditions, and that worked out really, really well. So another thing, again, find plants that are going to be successful without too many inputs. Don't have to go out of our way to, anything like spraying herbicides, I'm sorry, pesticides, or going out of our way to make sure it gets water and too fussy in that way. Plants that kind of know what they're doing and can be successful. The other thing we wanted to do from the very beginning, we wanted to double the tree canopy, and we did that. So that was a big deal. And the other thing is, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, all the things that we need to do to make sure that every tree has the correct soil volume, make sure it has the correct soil, make sure we have very, very careful on the soil recipe itself, make sure it has the right soil volume, soil depth, all the advantages we could think of, we made sure that it got put in on this project. So keep in mind that just about most of the plants that you're going to see today and many of these planters we have, it's basically a rooftop garden. Okay, they're over top of the roof of the museum, if you will. So these plants had to be tough, had to be resilient, and be able to take a little bit of pressure here and there, and that's pretty much been our goal from day one. And the last thing which was important was kind of made obvious to us was the museum on the front, on the north entrance on Jefferson Drive, as well as Independence. They wanted to have better access, so more ramps. So more ramps doesn't sound like a big deal for the gardens, but it is, because it took garden space away. But more importantly, we wanted trees on those ramps. The ramps are there, therefore the area where the trees are planted gets squished because the ramps are there. So we had to really, really work, make sure we get the right trees, make sure we structure the ramp the right way, make sure we bring in the right soil to make sure those trees are successful. So, and I'm going to get into all that a little bit later here as we go on. And in 2016, we got the plans for the first time from the design team, and then we kind of went to work with making our recommendations after going through it all. And after 7 years of construction, the building is getting to be near completion. The gardens is basically complete. And as we started actually putting trees in the ground the summer of 2023 and perennials in the ground last April. So April 2024, we planted over 14,000 pots, and we did a total of 122 trees. So, and the pots were basically, I would say more than half as we put in as a 1 gallon, and also we put in some plugs as well, 5-inch plugs. So one other design thing that was kind of made obvious from the very, very beginning was if you're on the top image there on the left, that little individual standing there, where it was before, if he or she was standing there looking out at the mall, meaning to the right, there was a lot of shrubbery there. We had some trees, and then they had that middle layer, the shrubs I was telling you about earlier, and then the perennials. Okay, so you really couldn't see if you're there on that terrace, you couldn't see them all. And then vice versa, if you're the little individual on the mall on the right, looking left, you couldn't really see the building. Well, we wanted to eradicate that. So now we have these giant trees. We got a whole bunch of perennials. And now there's a nice view, open area where people can see both directions. So that was, so you can see how that would kind of affect us as horticulture people, because now our plant palette has to move a little bit. So, and so here we are with the tree planting. This was an image from last March. And the trees are planted in an architectonic design, which means that design relates to the design of the building. Okay, so you can see on that map there, we really increased the number of trees all around the building. We've really increased it now. Big trees, canopy trees, as well as the diversity of the trees. We now have added 9 new tree taxa to Smithsonian Gardens collection. And we installed, I think I told you earlier, 122 trees. These are all native to the Mid-Atlantic. And we're always trying to push for making Smithsonian Gardens a kind of an oasis, if you will. We're trying to find plants that have attributes of high wildlife value, biodiversity, and as well as maybe some, we want to build some kind of a cultural or historic landscape as well. Trees are just so important when it comes to birds and pollinators and mammals too, of course. And just, that's always been our goal, always trying to shoot for that. So, and you can see that row of trees, and then on that image on the left, underneath, where later on we'll put in the herbaceous layer, and then that's a picture up top there. So there'll be a nice area in the middle where you'll be able to be on the terrace, see out, and then, or you could be on Independence in this case and see in. So that's kind of the goal there. So we had to juggle a lot of these kind of guidelines, if you will. This is kind of a neat shot of the trees going in. Again, this would have been last March with that big machine. It's got this amazing cantilever function where it basically pick those trees up, which weigh 2.5 tons a piece, which is amazing. They're 8-inch caliper, and we plopped them in. We put them over the sidewalk and into the bed. And then on the upper right photo, that's a photo of Jefferson Drive. Those are Ulmus Americanas going in, and those American elms, and they went in as well. And it was a big deal. So it was really a lot of fun to be a part of this, and there was something going on all the time. It was quite something. But the funny thing about trees, let's say compared to perennials, trees have to live for decades. So the soil conditions need to be just right. They need to be spot on. And project specifications that we had towards the contractor and to the landscape people was, we need to have the right ratio, sand, salt, and clay. And this is an amazing soil, actually. It's not anything like I've ever been around. We didn't go for this is the most natural soil I've ever been a part of with any horticulture project, right? So it's not composty, floopy, Michigan peat, lots of stuff in it. Looks like dirt, and it's really neat stuff. And we'll talk a little bit more about that going on, but that was important to us too. So I was really happy. Good drainage. We were very careful, make sure that anytime trees went in, we didn't put any equipment in there anymore, to keep the soil compaction down. And it was a lot of fun to be a part of those. So much of the flight garden is over top of as I said earlier, over the roof of the museum, which brings up some interesting challenges from a soil perspective. To ensure each tree had enough access to soil, our shade trees, the oaks, black gums, and sweet gums, are planted over the ground. Okay. And that way they have sufficient root volume. And to make sure that if they ever have to do any more renovations to the building 20 years from now, let's say, that's not going to affect the life of the tree, because they'll be able to work on that, but not that other part. So you see that little drawing, that illustration down the lower right. That middle tree is a big tree. That could be, let's say, an oak or a sweet gum, Nyssa sylvatica, or the liquid ambar, the sweet gum, or the black gum. And it's a big tree, therefore it's over what they call grade. And then the two trees on the right of that drawing, those will be either a silver bell or a Cornus Florida, American flowering dogwood. So smaller tree because they have reduced root volume. And that image there, that photo on the left that I took, it just shows you that middle bed, how restricted the root zone is. So that middle bed would only get the perennials and, let's say, dogwoods, or perennials and the silver bells, Halesia. Okay. And that's kind of the deal there. And then that middle photo is when that's almost the exact same location. The two photos were taken. But now that everything's done, all the trees are in and it's complete. So that's very, very challenging. Another thing is, soil, like I said before, the soil on this project is very different than any other horticulture project I've been on. The part about this is the ramps. Let's go back to the ramps for a second. The ramps, that image on the right, that's a bicolor oak, Quercus bicolor, a swamp white oak. It's very narrow bed. So what we decided to do was make sure that under that ramp does not use structural soil. Okay, the ramp wants the structural soil, but the tree wants good growing media to grow in, right? So we demanded that they support the ramp by other means, concrete beams or improved concrete, and not through soil. So we have the soil that we like under the ramp to ensure that the trees are happy. So, and allowing for the root volume that we needed. So that's an image from above, and that's how we went around the building with these different trees. And again, closer to the road, on all the way around, we have the oaks and sweet gums, and we have scarlet oak and Shumard oak in the upper north and northeast and northwest corners. Sweet gum on the south, and then oaks again at the north and south entrance. And so basically we have 6 different species of oak, which is really a cool thing. I love the oak leaf. I love how the oak leaf looks. It's a grand tree, great tree. And it's really, really neat to have the big canopy trees around the building, because it's great to have this strong, upright, vertical appearance, which is a nice contrast to the strong appearance of the elms on the National Mall. So it's a nice contrast. And other thing is to have canopy trees around the building. Nothing is brighter or hotter than the south side of on the Air and Space Museum right there on Independence. At noon in July or August, it must be about 10,000 degrees. So one day those trees will be big and they're going to provide shade, comfort for people trying to get into the building, and they're already growing like crazy and things are going good. So we're in good shape. And then as far as the understory goes, we have over here, we've got Magnolia virginiana, a variety called Moonglow. That's doing really, really well. It actually stayed evergreen this year, which is really nice. Down here, we got the sweet gums. So we've got the Magnolia virginiana, silver bell, the Halesia, dogwoods, and then over here, we have Amelanchier laevius, the Juneberry. So they're doing well and great, and a lot of work went into that to make sure the tree palette was correct. Okay, so it's not easy to do in beds like this. So and a lot of care went into the trees themselves, as far as the leaf shape, the leaf size, the silhouette of the tree, ultimate size, fall color, a lot of care went into that. And this is actually fairly close to the design. Some of these trees actually, I think, yeah, this is actually what we used actually. The only one tree that didn't make it on this was the southern sugar maple, but everything else got put in. So it's been really great. So, and and every tree planted, like I said before, is a mid-Atlantic region native, selected for its high value biodiversity. And it's a lot of care went into finding trees that are going to make the critters happy and make the National Mall a place of beauty. So we did very, very hard work on that. It's good stuff. There was one other tree story I'd like to tell. Is this here? This is a 1985 image of the National Air and Space Museum, and here under the red circle, there's this little area here, and you can see these trees. So this would have been just about almost 10 years, almost a decade after the building was open. And this is Quercus fellows, the willow oak here, and this is how they look today. This is this past spring, and they've done really, really well. And I love both those pictures to show that. Now, since then, in last April, we planted it with the perennials, and that's the way it looks right now, or that's the way it looked this past April. So, and the trees are doing well, and again, all that material went in last April. I took this photo about March, I think, or March or April, and so it's been great. So, and really, oaks are really the backbone species for us here on site, and they really are the backbone in many, many ways of as far as wildlife value in terms of Lepidoptera, host plant. I've always been a big Doug Tallamy fan. I've read all his books and been a big proponent of his. So it's been really, really happy that we can able to save these oaks, because originally these oaks were going to get taken down when they renovated the building. But our landscape architect went to bat for us, and with the fine arts people, and I guess the construction people, and they made it all happen, and they agreed. And then, of course, we had to take steps to make sure that when the construction really got going, that the trees were taken care of and they were safe, and we would not hurt the root zone. They put down sand, and then they put down a layer of mulch to keep equipment from not hurting the tree roots and so forth. So far so good. It's good stuff. So now we're gonna move into perennials a little bit. The perennial design was commissioned by our landscape designer, AECOM, and Patrick Kalina was the designer. And Patrick's a super smart guy. I love talking to him. He came here several times, and he met with us, and then he was here for several of the planting days. It was really great to be with him, and great to talk to him about his interpretation, about his ideas. And it's a highly interplanted design intended to be kind of a lively counterpoint, if you will, maybe to the hard edges of the building, to the strong, rectangular nature of all the planting beds. It's really used to soften all that up. And the planting design has about, I think it was 75 different taxa, different plants. And it's a nice diversity. As I said before about the native plants, we try to push them as much as possible. I would think, 70%, I think I used the number before, 70% is native. And we do see our fair share of birds, bees, and butterflies so far, which is always great. It's just great to be a part of that. So, yeah. Now, so as far as the flight garden here, the planting with these perennials, what did that get us? Because as I said before, it's highly interplanted in this matrix form. Plants are very close together, and I mean really close together, closer than what you might think is good, but it all seems to be working well, and it kind of gives you the feeling like it's a system, it's a working machine that is there's a rhyme to this. It's happening for a reason, which is really, really neat. It really, really is. So far, the intent was we're not going to need any fertilizer. Hopefully we'll use less water, no pesticides. So that was kind of the thing out there from the very beginning. I would say that what I like about it so far is things are planted close enough together that where the plants are filled in and doing well, there really is no weeds. The only time we get weeds is when you have an opening or the plant's not filled in yet. So hopefully that'll even get better with time. But really, the old 1980s, a plant and then some mulch and then another plant and then some more mulch and then another plant and then some more mulch and then all that's, to me, that's more work. That's weeds upon weeds. So heck with that. So with this design, it really is dynamic. And maybe for the next 10 minutes here, I'm going to try to bring that out and kind of show that a little bit. But over time, I'm sure that the slower growing plants will need to be moved or they're going to die out because they will be choked out. The trees are going to get bigger, throw more shade. And then the faster growing things, the more muscular plants are going to kind of take over. They're going to need to be dug and removed or dug and divided and some put back. And then one more thing is Chelsea chopping. Those for me not familiar with the term, that's just the idea of usually, let's say late spring, early summer, find plants that usually get kind of tall and floppy. You can probably somewhere between half and maybe 2/3 the way up. Just give it a little haircut, knock everything off the top. Usually done around that time of the year. It's a good reminder because that's around the time of the Chelsea Flower Show in the UK. So that's kind of where that comes from. We're doing that, experimenting with that, trying to find the right recipe. But so far, things are kind of neat. It's really, really neat to be a part of. We used a lot of prairie species in the plant list. And many prairie plants survive droughts, grazing, fire, and it really is their root system. The root system is the engine for this resilience. Deep roots allows it to get water. Deep roots allows it to have good anchorage. And if anything does happen, like if they get browsed by, let's say, deer, or even you run over with a lawnmower, it's not going to kill the plant. It's just going to start coming again. So that's kind of cool, that these plants really are, it's really that root area that makes all the difference. This is a famous picture here I've seen many times in many native plant books. What's neat about it, those plants that I highlighted there, those are ones in our landscape, which is kind of cool. But look at the root depths on that, 14, 15 feet, if you could believe that. It's amazing. One other neat thing about that, though, is you can see the different plant depths. Not all plants are the same. Some are 15 feet, some are 5 feet, some are 6 feet, some are 9 feet, some are 10 feet, right? And that way, that's how these plants can be so close together. They're not all inhabiting the same space. But then look above the ground, all the different heights of the stuff above the ground, it's also not inhabiting all the same space up top. So you can see how you can squish things together, and it's really not going to harm anything. Actually, they do quite well. So one thing that Patrick did was he had this system where and it's not new to him, I don't think, because if you read Claudia West's book, some Pete Udorf stuff, Noel Kingsbury, people like that, they talk about this idea of anchor plants, what some people call seasonal plants, and ground cover plants, where they really do different things. Okay, I'm going to go over each one of these separately. And that's really, I think, the secret sauce for me. And it's kind of changed the way I look at gardening, really, if you will. So, and you can get stuff together, close together, get the look you want without all the empty space. Because empty space is empty, that's not good, but also it brings weeds. So I'm not happy with all that. So I like what we're doing here. So this is just one example real quick about one of the beds. I went out there yesterday with a tape measure and I calculated it. 1,960 square feet. This is on Independence Drive, south of the building. Okay, and 645 pots. Again, pretty close together. That's the map that we were given when we set them down. This was planting day here, and that's when they all got in the ground. It was, like I said, really, really a lot of fun. And we basically did this all the way around the building for all 14,000 pots. And, but this was a cool example of a neat thing, because that picture on the left, that's the same bed this past spring. And, you know, in April and May, the Amsonias were blooming and the Baptisias were blooming, which, by the way, is a beautiful color combination. And just as they were about to go down, the Gallenia, or the Bowman's root, started to bloom right down the middle, which is really pretty. And then on the outside, the Dahlia, which is kind of a cute little pink flower, that was a nice combo. Then when that was just about to go down, bam, all of a sudden the rattlesnake master came up and the Liatris popped up. And just as they were about to disappear, the Echinacea popping up right now, as well as the Joe Pine weed. And they went boop, 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 you know, so it's kind of cool. And you wouldn't think that the Liatris, let's say, could poke through, but it was literally swamped in the Amsonia, and let's say Panicum, the big grass. And then all of a sudden, whoop, here comes the Liatris. It's really, really cool. And that's where it looks right now, the Liatris and the rattlesnake master on the right there. So, and that's how that same bed looked this fall, this past fall, 2024. And that's after it got put in May, and that's the way it looked by fall. So it's really, really cool. So one of the things, I was out there last week, was on my hands and knees, where I always am, weeding and doing whatever. And I came across this and thought it looked kind of cool. And this gives a nice kind of a illustration of the what's actually going on here. So first thing, you have the Amsonia tabernaemontana rice salicifolia, okay, on the right. And then you've got some Baptisia, and then you have Symplotrichum oblongifolium October skies, and that's just an aster. So remember, all the botanists of the world changed the world. Symplotrichum used to be asters, but now they're Symplotrichum and Eurybia. So it's an aster there. So all three of these are quite big, quite large. But, you know, the Baptisia is already bloomed. The Ancelonia is already bloomed. The aster hasn't bloomed yet. It's going to bloom in the fall. But when those Baptisias and the Amsonia were blooming, it was quite lovely, quite beautiful. And just as now they're gone, they're providing nice foliage, nice kind of a layer there. And then all of a sudden, right now, the Joe Pye weed is popping up. And then the Rudbeckias. How cool is that? I mean, wow, bam, 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 bam. And then the ground cover is the Carax down there. So, and again, they all have a job to do. And all I did, when I took this picture, I stood up, and the picture on the left, that's the way it looked. That's the way it looks basically right now. It's all filled in, doing great. And then the picture on the right, that's the way it looked last August, or last August, September, something like that. So that's the same bed. So that way you're always going to have something going on at different layers. And as you can see, I don't see how you could ever have a weed problem. So that makes me very happy. So these are the anchor plants that they used. And you can see that picture on the top right. That's Amsonia, Pycnanthium, grasses, Panicum, all big stuff. It's almost like a hedge. And all that stuff was put in last March. And that's the way it looks that's the way it looked right now. Very pretty. And that lower picture is that picture of the Baptisia and the Amsonia going. And again, these are what they call the anchor plants. Big, tall, wide, take space, long-lived, great competitors. Also sometimes called structural plants. If you mention the grasses, the Panicums, the Andropogon, the Calamagrostis, they're all big grasses, take up space, do their thing. And you can see here on the photo on the left here, this is a Panicum. Panicums sprinkled through here. So the Panicum is using kind of the thing that kind of holds stuff together. You know what I mean? Same thing up here. The Panicum's doing its job, holding stuff together. And it's really kind of structurally sound, if you know what I mean. Because they're not just going to, you know, it's not like it blooms and then it goes away. That's there the whole growing season, and then obviously into the fall. And down here, you've got this Baptisia, this white Baptisia, but here you've got Amsonia and Pycnanthium. So it really is quite full, and it's just gorgeous, beautiful. So it's all good stuff. So, and here, by the way, you have these structural plants, these anchor plants with these colorful guys poking up. You got Helenium. This is Fatal Attraction Echinacea. This is Salvia azura. Over here, you got the New York, the upland ironweed, Vernonia glauca. Very, very tall, big, beautiful, same ironweed flower that the other one gets. Just really, really do a great job. And I wanted to highlight a couple plants that are in that anchor group. One is the Sophium. Next one is the Amphora. Sophium, by the way, is seeding like crazy, so that'll be kind of interesting going forward. But big, tall, super duper tough as nails. And the Amphora, in this picture here, you can see Amphora will get bigger. When the Amphora gets bigger, it might affect the Asclepias here. But I think that the Asclepias is seeding all over the place, so it's going to be moving probably too. So, and the Amphora and the Baptisia probably will have to find out who's boss, or put a little bit push one way or the other, and then it'll be up to me at some point to edit out whatever I think is, should stay or should go. So, and here's the Baptisia. I left that Coke can there not to be, it's not trash. I put it there just to kind of see the size. But again, you can see that layered effect. The Baptisia, great this year, bloomed like crazy, very, very long time. Great for bumblebees, super duper tough. Going forward, now it's not in bloom anymore, but it's holding space. It's holding the garden together. It's really, really neat plant to have around. And there's so many cultivars to choose from in Baptisias. So next group is the seasonal plants. The seasonal, they're not as long lived. Some of them might, poop out after a while, like Echinacea and that kind of thing. But they're visually dominant when they're doing their thing, and then they kind of recede back to the sideline after they bloom. But here you got Helenium, Salvia, more Vernonia, of course, Echinacea, and again the structural Baptisia and Panicum here. So, and same thing here in this photo. I wanted to highlight the Salvia azura, 3 to 5 feet tall. Seeds, like we're getting a lot of seedlings, which is kind of cool. But Liatris is going to bloom here pretty quick. The Helenium did really, really well last year. And again, the Panicum is holding court, and these guys are all around it, and they're all just seem to be coexisting. So just kind of a beauty shot of the Helenium going down. Last year, after they flowered, I cut them all back, and I got another whole group of flowers. Really, really cool. And here you got of the Vernonia, the upland ironweed, and here this is wild quinine Parthenium. And so again, this bed is right here is kind of indicative of the way it is all around the building. Not all the beds are different, but there's a lot of repeatings to kind of give it some continuity. Just every bed's a little bit different, so one to the next. So another plant I want to highlight in that middle section, the medium plants, is the wild quinine Parthenium. And it's a plant that I can't say that I've known too much about. I've seen in pictures and YouTube and that kind of thing, but I've never actually grown it. It's kind of, when you see it in a garden center, you're not particularly enthralled by it, but get it in the garden. It's a gorgeous flower. It's in the aster family, so it's got tons of pollinators, super duper tough. And we are finding some seedlings already this year, so it is spreading. And what a great color combination between the Parthenium and the Dahlia, the prairie clover in the background there. It's really, really pretty. And it blooms for a very long time. It's really almost like it's a really hard flower. It's real kind of a neat structure, and it blooms for very, very long. So super duper tough, as far as drought and full blazing sun, good stuff. So is there just another shot looking towards this one on the left is where we're looking towards American Indian over here. A nice view of the layers between the Asclepias, the Echinacea. Down here, we've got some Tricertus. It's going to be gorgeous this year, beautiful, great foliage, nice color combination there. And you can see that in the distance here, it all has taken off. This is on the northeast. So this was actually planted last August, and it's actually, we did this one later, and it's actually doing quite well. And I did a little highlight of the wild quinine, the parthenium. It is a super duper, I said, great plant. And I'm real happy that we did that one. So the last area is the ground plants. Most, you can kind of see here, tend to be a little bit more shade loving, a little bit maybe shorter lived. A lot of them do seed. That's probably how they survive. The survival strategy is not so much the plant, but then the seedlings thrown out there. So, it's and that list is probably, out of all the, compared to the other two lists, this one is probably the least native, I would say, pretty much, kind of. But it's everything's doing quite well. This is a lot of these plants are in the area under the oaks and on 7th Street. I like to highlight Eurybia divaricata, Aster divaricata, Eastern Star, great for dense shade, great for dry shade, does quite well. Seeds, it does seed very happily. And then the Dahlia purpurea, the prairie clover, great little flower, full of bees, blooms like crazy. I've never been that thrilled with it before I saw it here, actually in the ground doing its thing. It's really nifty plant. And I get a lot of questions. People ask me that all the time. What is that? What is that? So it's really cool. I'd like to show you this. This is the woodland area, those oak trees I keep telling you about on the west side of the building on 7th Street. That was the map that we were given, and those are the plants that had to go into the map. And look at that, looks like a bowl of Skittles. We had to make some sense out of that mess. And it all got put in, and it all is done pretty well. And that's the way it looked this past spring. You can see the phlox blooming right here. So, and I would like to highlight a couple things we're doing in the future. This is the habitat of flight. We're, by attracting things that pollinate and fly, we can study and appreciate the wonder of flight. And what better place to do that than the National Air and Space Museum? So we're also love the connection between these plants with individuals such as birds, bees, and butterflies, and the co-evolution between the two. So, so we're in that display, and these signs that you see in red here, that's for the flight garden, and that will be sometime in the future. We're writing the signs now. We're making all that happen. And then the wind garden is we're trying to highlight plants that use the wind either to disperse the seeds or to pollinate. So oak trees pollinate via the wind, and a maple tree disperses its seed through the samaras, the twirly thingies, and again, the wind. So that's coming here probably in starting this year and probably even into next year. So it's very exciting. That way there'll be some interpretation out there in the garden. And another exhibit we're going to be highlighting here is the oaks. Okay, we have a pan kind of an exhibition going across all museums and all of our gardens, and called Growing for Tomorrow. And it's to provide a platform during the 250th anniversary of Smithsonian Institution. It's going to be called Growing for Tomorrow. It will focus on how to bring plants and people together, and how have plants brought people together. And for our purposes, we're going to be doing the oak tree, and what's the ecological benefits of the oak tree, how oaks help the habitat, how they sequester carbon, and really investigate that. And we have these 3 beautiful specimens there on the west side of the building. And the best thing about Smithsonian Gardens, at least from my perspective, is I get to work with some of the best volunteers These people come here, we have fun, we dig holes all day long. We, even in this kind of weather that we had just this past week where it's 9,000 degrees, we're outside every day. And then in the wintertime, they don't take it off. They're here with me even in the winter. It could be 30 degrees outside and we're out there digging a hole and doing our thing. Some of these people were with me 10 years now. So it's really been very rewarding and just awesome. It's great stuff. So I'm very, very thankful for their presence. And of course, we do a lot of great work together. Keep the place looking beautiful. And that's all I have. Thank you so much for the chance, for the opportunity to come speak today. This last slide is, we had our interns out in the garden. This is last week. And our current intern at Air and Space is a young intern from a college student from Texas A&M. So she's been great, and she's been helping us this year. And we're introducing her to Washington, D.C. heat and humidity, pulling weeds every day, and it's been great. So, I would love to have everybody come to D.C., come and see us, come see the building, come find me. I'd love to show you around, and makes it all the worthwhile.